Yo, what's up everybody? Today I'm going to be doing a video on how I deal with stress as a medical doctor, as a GP trainee. Today is a bit of a lighter day for me. Going into work now, have a list to do with my consultant. We'll see how it goes. It's come up with everything that's going on with the coronavirus and how people are feeling, and I've just recorded a recent podcast with a GP trainee on how people deal with anxiety and stress. And what came up was I found myself thinking about how I deal with stress and how to go about, handling situations. Interestingly, I was with my supervisor who recently asked that same question. So, how do I deal with stress? How do I manage myself? And there are different concepts that have come up, and I've seen that, yes, I've been more stressed this period, but I have come up with methods and tactics that I have been using over the years to manage my stress levels. I'll be sharing some of them as we go along. We'll take you and see how everything goes. Let's go. So now I'm at work, just got to work now, strolling in. I think just got the message that obviously one of the cases has been postponed. I shouldn't say cancelled, but has been postponed for some reason. So just going to see how the day goes. Probably step into the library and do some stuff. So yeah, talking about stress, how I manage stress. I mean, going back all the way back to medical school, I schooled in Nigeria. I went to the University of Benin, and I think medical school back in Nigeria was a whole different ballgame. I mean, that was on another level of stress. But then we didn't see it as stress then. It was more, you just had to put in the work, the whole night out, and you see people just burning the candle at both ends, reading throughout the night for exams. The system was set up in such a way that you were it was a very intense situation. You were modulated to adapt to the stress one way or another. I think it was just the situation that we're in. Medical school was just, I think the word was brutal. And once you finish medical school, then you become a doctor. Start what we would call then was housemanship. What's broken down into the foundation training here, foundation year 1 and 2. We had it as housemanship, and my first day I think I started with surgery, and you walked in there, didn't know what to expect. Ended up doing a 36-hour on-call shift. Found myself nodding on the theater table because he was junior. The surgery table went straight to theater. Had to be holding retractors for the surgeons and doing that stuff. And you'll find yourself nodding because you've not eaten, you've not slept. It was really, really brutal. Obviously, we were young then, so you could tolerate that level of stress. And it was really something that, going back and seeing, like, you wouldn't want someone to go through that particular situation anymore. So just got into work now and just walking straight to the doctor's mess where I could drop my stuff up, my lunch, and after that can head straight to the ward round to take a handover for my colleagues. And we'll just be discussing stress as we go on. I think it's one of the main things that's been happening during the COVID-19 period, and it's an interesting issue, and I should be catching up with my colleague Douglas as we get into the building. So it's lunchtime now, and I caught up with my colleague just to see if we could discuss about stress, but we just realized that we had a meeting that we had to rush up to. Yeah, so basically we're just going for the presentation. We just realized that we've got a presentation coming up, and that's Douglas, by the way, my colleague, extraordinary YouTube presenter as well. And they're talking about stress. We've just found out that we're having to do a perinatal presentation. We kind of prepared, but got postponed, so that's where we are with it at the moment. Yeah, let's go and see what we can offer them.
So actually what happens is that we have a weekly meeting where we kind of do most important or exciting cases in the department. So we just talk about them, like knowledge sharing.
Knowledge sharing.
Hear from everyone, contribute, and so just for better patient management, basically.
Nice. Thank you, sir. Finish the presentation now. Just going back to meet my other colleagues to have a quick discussion on how they handle stress. I'll see if I can catch some of my colleagues and have a discussion about their levels of stress and how they're handling it. So one of my colleagues I caught up with was Dr. Suhaib Ahmed, who works in the surgery department, and that's a very busy department and it's a very stressful unit. And I asked him how he deals with stress.
You know how I deal with stress? By smiling. By smiling and enjoying every single moment of life. Do you know the reason behind that? There is always a person in a worse situation, and there is always a person in a better situation. You choose which life you're going to live. If you're a millionaire, you're going to look at the billionaire and say, oh my God, I'm poor. But if you're a millionaire, you can look at a person who doesn't have anything and say, oh my God, I'm a very lucky person.
So another of my colleagues, Dr. Fatima, who's also a GP trainee, has given her own tips on how she handles stress at work.
The last few months have been very, very stressful for me at work, and this is what I did to help me cope with my stress. Number one, I spoke with my clinical supervisor, so it's very good to have a trusted senior at work that you can speak with. Number two, I have lots of friends at work, and whenever I feel like ranting, I always run to them and rant, and I knew that they always had my back and I had their back as well. Number three, I made sure I didn't miss any of my breaks, and whenever I was going to take a break, I just went far away from the department. Usually I go into the garden in the sun, or when there's no sun, just in the fresh air to have a break. Number four, I made sure that I left everything that happened at work. I left it at work. On my way back home, I listen to music, I try to unwind, and I forget about work until the next shift. I hope you find this helpful.
So just going back to the wards, just to tidy up everything, make sure everything's done completely, from discharge letters to patient notes. And after that, I've got a couple of hours which I'll just head off to the library, spend some time doing some studying before heading home, just to beat the traffic a bit. And then it's time to head home. How I deal with stress, like I said in the earlier parts of the video, stress can sometimes be something useful. There's a particular saying that I've started quoting and I like by C.S. Lewis, that it's through hardships that ordinary people can achieve an extraordinary destiny. That's one thing. And I like to look back to books. Down my journey as a medical doctor and as a human being generally, there are some certain books that have defined my life and have formed changing points in my life. One of those ones in particular that stands out is a book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, if you haven't read that book, I would really advise or recommend that you get the book and read. Obviously, if you don't like reading books, you can get the audiobook and listen to it, and you get a lot from the book. One of the concepts in the book that I found quite useful is something called your circle of control and your circle of concern. The major stresses in life either come from 1, your finances, 2, your health, 3, your relationships, and 4, the bigger picture of uncertainty. Now, when you list these 4 things, what we find out is that out of those 4 things, the bigger picture of uncertainty, you really cannot do anything about it. So that kind of falls into what we call your circle of concern. There are things out there, but you really can't do anything about it. For instance, the COVID pandemic is ongoing. It's in the general public there. You personally cannot go out there and change the whole pandemic, but in your circle of control, you can take steps to help protect yourself. So that's in what you can control. That's the circle of control. It's one of the concepts in the book anyway. So going forward, there were other concepts from the book that we apply to our general parts of life. for instance, with relationships can be relationship with your colleagues, your friends, your children. One of the things we talk about in that book is he mentions the habit of seek first to understand before being understood. Because most times when you listen to people, what you actually find out is that you are actually preparing to speak rather than listening to them completely, which is one of the things that kind of leads to miscommunications, leads to stress levels going up in different Another book areas. I would like to mention is a book by Dr. Chatterjee. It's called The Stress Solution. Now, in that book, he talks about little steps that you can take to mitigate the little stresses that you face. He calls them micro stressors. So essentially, there are little things in the day that kind of build the stress level slowly as you go, micro stressors. And when you kind of do those, when trying to eliminate those things, the fact that you can hit your threshold far later, it increases your likelihood that you won't hit your threshold, rather I should say. Things like you setting the alarm, going to bed late the night before, alarm wakes you up, you've got to rush out to work, you're caught off in traffic, all those little micro stressors that build the stress level up. Another thing to talk about are the steps I can use, or steps you should use to help reduce your stress levels. One key thing there is sleep. Can't stress that enough. Most times, if you do not get enough sleep, your hormone levels are not reset properly, because it's during sleep that your body actually goes into the repair process and repairs all the cells. There's diurnal variation of cortisol. The second thing that can help you de-stress, nutrition. Getting key and adequate nutrition is very key to reducing your stress levels. I've started doing, well, I've been doing a combination of both the intermittent fasting and the keto diet. I found that to be quite helpful to my my motivation actually, and helping my stress levels in different areas of my life. Another thing, exercise. I mean, we can't stress that enough. I'm a big advocate of getting as much exercise. Now, we've tried to move away from the term exercise, because when people hear exercise, what I found out is that they kind of imagine the bodybuilder in the gym lifting the heavy weights up and down, doing some heavy, high intensity Shaun T training. So the term we want to use, and I learned this from Dr. Chatterjee as well, is movement practice. So get to do some form of movement practice every day. It doesn't have to be some massive exercise. 3 minutes of squats, 1 minute of push-ups, sit-ups, any form of exercise, even if it's just leg raises or tricep dips. In fact, just walking. On that is some form of build on your relationships, get into a reading habit. Meditation. Now, when I say meditation, meditation comes in all different forms. If you're a Christian, you could meditate by reading the word in the Bible. If you're Muslim, you can do the same practice by reading the Quran. Or if you just want someone that wants to sit down and have a quiet time to yourself, meditating, you can do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There are good apps out there that help. There's the Calm app, there's Headspace. Those ones are the quite common ones, and there are a few others that you find in your Play Store. And obviously there is the free version and there's the paid version, and depending on how much you want to do, you can decide how far you want to go with them. Another key thing, and I found myself using this very often recently, is breathing, doing deep breathing exercises. The different types of breathing out there. There's box breathing, and there's the 3-4-5 method, where you breathe in for 3, hold for 4, breathe out for 5 technique. I've learned the different types out there. There's Wim Hof breathing even. I really don't know what that one is personally. I've not researched that one, but deep breathing exercises, I mean, especially if you do diaphragmatic breathing, help stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps your body relax better. Recently, obviously with the lockdown, I've all of a sudden become a reception class teacher and a year 2 teacher for my kids. And you find that I'm finding that my stress levels have been going up, especially when you're teaching them, you're trying to get a point across, and taking a minute to just breathe has come in very, very handy. I mean, again, I've always said it, when I have a newfound respect for teachers. Anyway, that by the side. So yes, let me know what you do to de-stress your levels. Main things, like I said, get hold of a good sleep, anything from 7 to 8 hours sleep, adequate nutrition. Like I said, I've been doing some intermittent fasting with some keto. I'm off keto at the moment. I did that for a period. I do what we call the cycling. I'll probably do another video on that at some point. And movement practice, get some movement practice. I'm a fan of exercises. Try and do at least 2 to 3 exercise routines per week, apart from the other movement practices, and breathing and some form of meditation. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention, which is key: gratitude journaling. My practice in the morning: 30 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes of gratitude journaling, 10 minutes of meditation and deep breathing, 10 minutes of some form of movement practices. I'd like to either do push-ups or some quick jumping jacks or seal jacks, just to get the blood flowing and pumping through the body. Yeah, so 30 minutes of that in the morning kind of gets me going. I mean, see what you think. If it's something you like, leave some comments below. If you're just new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button somewhere on the left hand corner or your right hand corner there. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, and like the video if you think it was nice, and let me know what you think. I shall catch you guys later.